I've been filming and showcasing van dwellers for the past 7 years, filming full van tours of their unique spaces and interviews about their nomadic lifestyles. Time and time again, I've gotten viewers asking me the same fundamental questions like, where do you go to the bathroom? Or where do you park? But I think underneath that is an even more fundamental question, which is van life right for me? I decided I wanted to answer that once and for all, and that's what this film is. A collection of interviews from 11 unique van dwellers from all different walks of life, doing this for their own reasons, all with the hopes of answering how to live in a van. How does somebody start living in a van?
Well, this might sound like a stupid answer, but to start living in a van, first you have to acquire a van, which can be the hardest part. You know, I was watching listings every day. I would check in the morning, and the van that I ended up with was listed like an hour before I contacted the dealership, and there was already people interested. So I had to go check it out and like buy it immediately.
But I mean, you just go on YouTube, look at different designs, and just pick what you think you can afford, and just go from there. I didn't even have a bed. First, actually, I just had this, mattress on the floor, just so I could do it.
I'd say get yourself a simple little solar system. I've got 300-watt solar panels. I know it is a bit excessive for how much power I do put out and what I'm using. Always get a little bit more than what you think you would need.
It's definitely better if you build it on your own than having it built by someone else, because then you actually know all this stuff, every wire, every pipe. And if something goes wrong, you build it and you know it.
Unless you're buying a pre-built van, you do need to do a lot of planning and research to figure out what's going to work for you in terms of materials and how you want to approach a build. Like, I did a lot of research and it paid off. I think I picked like the best insulation. I have a really good solar setup. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here that works for someone who didn't know what they were doing. Then there are a handful of things that don't work too. So the more research and planning you do, the better. Like, do some blueprints, look into a lot of options, and make sure you do it right the first time, because it's going to be impossible for me to tear these walls off and do it again.
Buy the van and start the build. There's only one way to do it, and that is to, again, just rip the Band-Aid off and do it.
Let's say buy a small minivan first, see how you like that, and then as soon as you got a little more money by saving by doing that, then you can invest more and expand. Probably gonna cost you about $300 worth of wood in the van if you want storage underneath, and yeah, just start with that first and see how you like that, how you cope with van life, how you be okay with by yourself on the road, because that could be something haunting your mental a lot.
And be prepared to downsize to maybe 10% of what you have, because
Correct.
Everything that your whole life is pretty much have to go fit in this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Who is van life for?
Van life for the people that willing to learn, flexible, doesn't have a lot of money. It doesn't have to have a lot of money. You can start van life with a budget of $10,000.
People start living in a van because they want a lifestyle change, because they want something that their current life isn't giving them. So maybe that's, for me, it's adventure, but for other people, it might just be financial.
Hey, it's for anyone, really. It's for anyone who wants to either challenge himself to do something new, just wanting to be able to have a space to yourself, or even just, I can't find a place that would rent to pets. It seems like costs of everything have gone up so high where it's almost inaccessible. And then what, $1,700 to $2,500 just for a rental to live? So I'm basically devoting my entire life to continuously pay taxes, push, just to live for a few minutes of my life to work. So you sleep and work more than you actually do enjoy your life.
Van life is for everyone. They should do it. I've told my daughter that when I die, she's got to live in a van before she gets her inheritance.
Van life is for way too many people to give a straight answer to that. There's a lot of reasons to do it. For me, part of it is like an economic philosophy thing. I just hate capitalism. I hate giving my paychecks to landlords. I was really interested in owning my home in the roundabout sort of way that it took. So like that's a big thing for me, is like the independence from capitalism and the hierarchy that we have. But some people don't care about that at all. So for some people, it's just, you know, if you want to be adventurous. Yeah, one of the largest for me is definitely just economic philosophy, though. I wasn't interested in feeding into the system that we already have, which does not benefit anybody entering the economy without generational wealth.
So in my opinion, van life is for anybody that wants to step out of the normalcy of society. It's, you know, for people that want to be super adventurous and live alongside nature a little bit more. It's for people that, you know, on a day-to-day basis want to live their life through adventure. Every day is so different when you live in a van. And, you know, new experiences come up, new challenges come up. So if you really want to challenge yourself and challenge your world as a whole, I'd say step into it, because it is never a dull moment in these things, baby.
I've met a lot of people in the film industry that actually own homes in northern BC, but they'll come down to town when they're working on TV series and live in their nice spaces for that time period.
I wouldn't recommend it for very elderly people, because then it's you have to go up to the roof sometimes, you have to go underneath sometimes. It might be a little tough for you, but that it could be for everybody that willing to take the adventures.
It can be challenged, but I feel there's lots of pros, and there's more pros than cons.
It's for anybody who wants adventure. It's for people who want to save money from the huge housing crisis that we're having in Canada. It could be for people who want to save for a property later on. A lot of people are doing that too. And maybe it's just to have fun with your dog.
I think more like why I chose this lifestyle would just be the philosophical kind of reason. Just to be the freedom, being able to choose, just the relying on yourself and just being able to choose your path for yourself. Yeah, it's just kind of being able to design your own space and everything like that. I found customize, like I like the whole customization sort of feel of it all. And it's just appreciation for the work that you kind of put in for your own space.
I don't want to pay 3 weeks of my wage to a rent, and I've had roommates, and the roommates did not work out at all. So I just like being in my own space and making my own rules.
Environmental ideas as well are really pleasing to me. Like I get by on solar power. You know, I'm not like on that grid at all. I think I generally make more sustainable choices just because of the situation that I'm in. Like I can't buy in bulk and pile up a bunch of plastic and that sort of thing. Like I can't order from Amazon to an address that I don't have. So it's indirectly made me live a lot more sustainably. But then on the other hand, like I drive around a lot more than I used to. My heat is powered by diesel, so like it's not perfect. I think if I actually did the math, it wouldn't be that much different in terms of environmental impact, but it feels good to have solar power.
Do you feel limited by your lack of space in a van?
I do not feel limited by my lack of space in the van. Most of the time I'm actually outside in nature and I just sleep in here.
Yes, for sure. You know, more space is great. I think having a smaller space has taught me to live within the space that I have and kind of choose what's important and where your kind of needs are. And I'd like to have a bit more space. So I think over the years that I've been in the bus, I am slightly outgrowing it. When you're looking for a space, it's either looking for a space that's slightly bigger than what you think you'd need, or just something where you have room for growth. Because as you're getting into the bus life or doing that, it's like things change, you're evolving, you're learning, things are going to get bigger and things are going to change. But if you're mobile, more space means more weight means more gas means more money, and more money means you need a decent mobile job. And if you got a bigger unit, which means finding a place to park is just become that much harder.
It can be a little limiting, but if you plan your storage and if you create your storage nicely, and then you really have to think about what are you going to bring to this trip, or what kind of gear do I need, what kind of gear do I don't really need.
I constantly feel limited by the lack of space in my van. That is one of the hardest things. In some ways, it's a blessing in disguise, because it's like I have to get outside to exercise. You know, I can't like do a workout at home. which is good because it gets me out of the house. It gets me out in nature, in the sun. I go for runs by the sea every once in a while. It's like annoying, but it all is also like I'm grateful for that annoyance. But other times, absolutely, I'm limited by space. I can't do anything in here but sit. I can't even stand up. And one thing that I think I never really considered is like, I think I'm a pretty neat person, and it is so easy for a space like this to get cluttered. I leave one shirt out and it is so easy to notice. Like, it's constantly in my peripheral. So that's one way that space is extremely limiting, is like I am always tidying stuff because everything's always in the way. I went super minimalist when I moved into the van. You know, I went like ebooks only. I cut down my wardrobe a ton. It used to fit in like half the space under my bed. And then since living in it, I've realized that like, you know, I actually really like fashion. I don't want to be a minimalist. I like having clothes. If I had a full-size wardrobe, I'd be too powerful. So this is probably good for society, but like that's something that I don't want to be restricted in. But other things, it's really good though. Like I don't buy like junk, like little like decorations and like trinkets to just like have around. Like for the most part, everything's very thoughtful.
Do I feel limited with the lack of space in my van? Absolutely not. Honestly, when I hang out in my van, even when I have friends over, a lot of the time they are quite amazed with how big it feels in here. The more time I spend in it, the bigger it feels, and the more I'm like, I have too much space almost, you know? Obviously, when you move into your van, you're going to have to cut back a lot of stuff. So getting rid of a lot of the junk in your life is quite freeing. And again, everything has a spot and a place, and I know where it is. So I keep my van very, very clean for a reason. It not only is pleasing to the eye, but I know where everything is, and it just feels bigger that way when it's clean. So there's a lot of space in here. I can lay down on my bed. I can pull out my bed. I can, I don't know, do a handstand. Like, it's good to go in here.
The hallway here is about 25 inches width. So the two of us cannot go side by side. I mean, there's some time that's gonna be you go there first, or in the morning will be like you go brush your teeth first, and I'll go brush my teeth later, and you get the dogs out to go for a pee, and then in the meantime, I'll go brush my teeth. Communication, teamwork. Again, it's carrying out all the way to van life. It's not just a build, but living in it is also a huge communication.
So the van is a bit little. One thing that can miss us is the things to be stand up. Can stand in the van, but we can live in by being in the bed. For cooking, we do
sit here.
Yeah, we do everything we want in the van, so it's not a big problem. This lack of space.
It was awesome last night. We got a protector on. We got Netflix on. We're watching movies. We're cooking in here. Food is ready, just like your household, But then again, it's a cool feeling when you get out there, knowing that people parking around you. But we took in a shower in here. We cooking in here. We watching movies in here, and people just sit in the car. So it's something cool. That we can do it all when in a small size. So yeah.
It really is dependent on a person-to-person basis. For me as a solo traveler, it's all I need. And I carry less, bring less bags, carry less groceries. I like to go shopping every day or two, personally, to have fresh groceries when I'm cooking. And I only have 2 to 3 pairs of shoes with me, just for different activities. Beach, mountain, casual. That's all I need. It's a cool and empowering thing to basically build your kit down to the minimal amount of things you're required to live in a van. But I'd really say if you're a larger family, maybe that's a little more restricting.
Van life is not for lazy people. So maybe the world has a little bit of misconcept on van life, but van life definitely not for lazy people. Even just for walking around looking for a garbage place could be a challenge. Could be dumping the toilet is a challenge. It could be parking, could be cleaning. Smaller place, so you have to keep cleaning all the time to make it tidy. So it's definitely not for lazy people at all.
Before van life, I was actually a pretty minimal person. I was already a pretty big minimalist. So for The transition from like apartment lifestyle to van life wasn't a huge transition for me, just because I already didn't have a lot of stuff. After like my very first road trip in the van where I spent a month just like traveling, I got back to the city, and my very first natural instinct was to go to a store and go buy all these supplies that I thought that I needed. And so it's interesting how society kind of dictates or kind of tells you that you need to go buy all these things when you actually don't. And so I have to remind myself that I don't actually need a new backpack. I don't need, you know, all these new things. I have everything I have. Everything that I need is in the van, and that's it.
If I was, for some reason, to upgrade into a bigger vehicle or move back into an apartment and have a lot more space, I think my life would have a lot more, can I say crap? A lot more crap in it. You know, the more space you have, the more you want to fill it with junk. The only thing that I would benefit from having a lot more space is a spot to do my yoga practice. I can get away with that doing it outside or up on my deck or again in my yoga studio, but it would be kind of nice to, you know, have more space here just so I could do a little bit more stretching on a day-to-day basis just in my own personal space. That's maybe one thing that I miss about living in an apartment is having an at-home yoga practice. But other than that, you know, again, it would just be more junk. More junk in your life, the more space, the more you want to fill it. It's like money. The more money you have, the more you want to spend it.
Yeah, there's a couple things that like I just miss from living before. Like I used to have aquariums and I collected like vinyl records, and I don't have any of that now. And I do miss those. Like I miss like putting a record on in the morning and having a cup of coffee that's like ready when I wake up. There's a lot of things that I would do differently, which doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like not grateful for the way things are now. Like I kind of really enjoy the therapeutic process of pulling out my gas stove, boiling a pot of water, putting it in the French press, taking like 20 minutes to make a cup of coffee. Like sometimes it's nice, but it's also like when life's really busy and you don't have that time, I really want to just throw a cup of coffee in the travel mug on my way out the door. So yeah, I think living in an actual house opens up the way for me to have a lot more routine and structure in my life that I am missing in the van. You know, and when I'm parking somewhere different every night, my commute is a different length in the morning all the time. And it's just kind of impossible to plan ahead and to have structure and routine the way that I'd like to.
If I had a bigger Sprinter van or whatnot, then I would obviously put in a sink, and I would like to have a shower if I could.
If I have more living space, obviously it's gonna be more storage. Stuff such as camper chairs, camper equipments, or tools to maintain the van on the way would be great.
What is it like living in a van?
Most of the days it's awesome. Some days are pretty crappy. That's just the reality of it. Your chores they can take a long time, like filling up your water, getting propane tanks.
I just love the routine you get into. I start stopping at community centers to keep clean, use the shower, just go for a swim or use the gym, or go biking, and it's whatever you want to make of it.
Living in a van is pretty freeing. I know people that are in sticks and bricks don't really like it too much, because I got some pretty nice, reasonable real estate here that I get to look, and I change my views quite frequently. I'm just a rubber tramp.
It is constantly moving, constantly on the go. You are constantly going to the grocery store, switching up your spots, going to the beach, going to the forest. You're always gonna be on the move, you know. For me, I really like that because I have a gym pass, I got a yoga pass, I go to dance class, so there's all these different places that I need to be, and I always have my home with me. I'm basically a snail.
How much water do we have left? How much energy do we have left? Do we need to drive to get energy charge? Do we need to go fill up the water? Did our black tank empty? We're gonna go for 2 days into nowhere area, then get those things ready. Stuff like that. Yep. Communication. Yeah, be prepared. Yeah.
So sometimes you get to a place and you just don't feel safe and you have to leave, or you feel like you have to leave and you should leave if you have that gut instinct. So some days things just don't go your way.
You could be a security guard, you could be an IT guy. Lots of people ask that question, how do I earn money? I mean, working at home is one access, but also go connect with the companies that are willing to accommodating you on a parking stall. You're gonna see a lot of Class C RV, Class B RV in the Vancouver Airport parking lot for Air Canada, because the technicians there live in the parking lot. So it doesn't have to be a low pay job to live in van life. It could be anything.
What do you think people need to think about when designing a van?
I have different needs than another person would have, so it's pretty much figuring out what you're going to need, what you can deal with, what you can't deal with, but pretty much everything living in a small vehicle is space. So if you can have things that are dual purpose things that can kind of like work for you, it is a good thing.
I know what was important to me when I first made mine was I wanted a shower. If you do planning on having like water on the other side, like, you know, think about where you're gonna pipe it. Rather, instead of going through the walls, like maybe you want to go through the floor, but you might not want to go through the floor because you might not have in-floor heating. Your full seasons, what city or province or even country you live in, to make the space fit for you.
And really think about the functionality of the van, and for sure keep it simple.
When you're designing a van, an important thing to remember is that you probably don't need as much stuff as you think. I had a cupboard down here that I used to keep a camping toilet in, and then it was for emergencies, but I found that, you know, I'm always somewhere where I'm able to use a real facility. So that's the kind of thing that, like, I eventually got rid of it because I was like, I don't use this, it just takes up space. And I've never needed to use it. So, like, with that adequate kind of planning, like, you don't need as much space as you think. You know, I get by in a 40 square foot home quite comfortably.
They have to think about the cost. First of all, the cost. And do you have ability to lift up heavy things, such as a whole plywood for yourself, by yourself?
When you are in the stages of designing your van, for me personally, I didn't have any computer system generated stuff. So for me, it was just give it a go. When I first started out the planning of my van, my bed was supposed to be up front, and what happened? The bed came to the back. So for me, planning was kind of out of the question. It was just, you know, as I go, as I build, as I, you know, try to figure out where I want things to be placed, it just honestly kind of happened. You know, as you're building, you kind of, you know, you understand what size your sink is, and you understand that you want counter space. So you kind of just build for that, and then you start building around. Like, once you have like your main components, you just add to it and take it away if need be. But for me, there was no planning. You just do it.
If you're competent with computers and 3D design, that's a great way to go. That way you can make it very modular and adjust things as you're going through the process. But the easiest way is just get a blank piece of paper and a pencil and write down a list of what you want in your van, what's important to you, how many people there's going to be, how many seat belts you require. Your space is limited, of course. On a van like Bell, it's a 144, so it's the shortest Sprinter you can buy. But if you want to go bigger and you want to start adding in a shower, toilet, that kind of thing, that's what you got to start thinking about. So I say to people when they ask me, how do I get into this? What do I do to explore? I ask them kind of, what's your long-term goal in life? What are your plans for the next 5 years? How does this fit into what that is, and what does that look like for you? And then funny enough, easy enough, you can start adding in those pieces to your van and how you're going to build it and what it looks like.
Don't do what I did and just buy it over the phone and jump into it. I think people should plan out what their priorities are. So some people prefer to have like an indoor shower and whatnot. Figure out what you kind of want, like a kind of like a maybe list, and then a definite list, and then a no list. You know, how are you going to figure out your electrical and your cooking and your shower and all these other priorities, and figure out how you're going to fuel these systems. So if you use everything on all electrical, well, what happens if your electrical goes? So you need to have a backup plan.
We have to know the
weather, where you are going to do the trip, if you are going to live outside or inside the van. Need to know what's your consumption of water, the consumption of electricity. But we have found a van, I think, that meets our needs at the beginning, and so now we are a bit comfortable. It's tiny space, but kind of have a good living here.
And where do you go to the bathroom?
I go to the bathroom most of the time at the couch and boat ramp if I'm in the couch in. If not, you've heard of the bucket, or I have a shovel.
That's always that's always the tricky question. I actually knew that one was coming. Is where do you go to the bathroom? It's always everyone's thought. You know, I have a little facility just because I'm living on a farm where they run a weddings, stuff like that. So they have a unit I can make. So that's easy living. There's always like your lug-a-loo for your 5-gallon pail and the toilet seat and all that.
So the bathroom can be challenging. Like this bathroom, like we use it for number one for sure, but for number two, if we don't need to, we don't use it. You know, like we'd rather go to the public restroom. But yeah, like I said, it also depends on the time of the year. Like I went skiing in this van, and you know, you wake up in the morning, it's -20, and you don't really feel like going out on a bathroom. So if you have a composting toilet, that's definitely upside. You can just use it.
For guys, we are privileged. I've got a couple bottles under the sink that I empty out when I need to use them. I'll empty them out in like a public bathroom at like a park or something, and just have this inconspicuous cloth bag. In an emergency, I don't know if I want this on the record, to be honest, but in an emergency, I have pooped in my garbage can and just tie the bag up. It sucks to do, but it does. I mean, it gets the job done. So. These sorts of things, they get less weird the more that you do them. So it's like, first couple times I peed in a Gatorade bottle, I was like, oh, I hate this. I don't know if this is the life for me. And then like 200th time I've done it, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like it's only weird at first.
For me, I have a bathroom inside my van. It is a homemade toilet, so I separate the number 1 and number 2. I use it at my own leisure, but when you are using your own toilet, you have to deal with your own toilet, so get ready to get gross. Honestly, it's not that gross. You do it once or twice and you're pretty used to it. Other than that, there's obviously vicinities like the grocery store or a gym or work or wherever have you that you can use the bathroom at. So bathroom's never an issue for me.
We go to the bathroom in our van. We dump the toilet probably in dump station. The shower could be funny. We have outdoor shower, but obviously in this season, just for this van, have to wash my hair in the sink. Be flexible with towels and soap and wipe yourself down. Or you can, lots of people also go to a gym or a rec center. It's not a bad thing. It just has to be a flexible thing. Again, you're not at home. You don't have unlimited salt of water, so you have to be minimal.
This is the simplest way to do it, cheapest way. It's a couple $100, portable toilet. Rarely do people that I rent to or myself ever use it. It's an emergency device. You tend to get on a schedule of going to Starbucks, McDonald's, gas stations, community centers. And if you're staying at public parks, usually there's washrooms there as well at the campsites and stuff.
We don't have toilets here. So mainly we are going to the rest area. In the park there is also bathroom.
Or in the nature.
Or in the nature.
If
we are really far from a city or a constructed battlement, we have to go in the nature. We just dig a hole and it's all.
And for shower in restroom or in summer with our shower.
Outside shower, yeah. Sometimes we got public pool that are not very expensive. Also at the gas station there is like showers for $5, $6, $7.
So mostly I go to work. I also do have an emergency bathroom in the van. So there's a lot of different options. Again, never ran into this issue. My very first van in Maui, I didn't even have a washroom in my van, and I didn't even notice it until the end of my trip. I got back to Canada and I was like, oh, I didn't have a bathroom in the van. Like, how did I do that? And you just kind of just work it out.
How do you find places to park overnight?
For me, it is a little bit different. Of course, I have a couple hot spots around the city, in and outside of the city. But for the most part, you can kind of get away with cheeky spots. So you'll see signs that say only parking here Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Well, that other time, that's fair game. You can park there and not get charged or towed. Other times I will pay for parking in the city. Like, why not? You know, if I'm on a night out, there will be little places that you can get 12-hour parking or 24-hour parking. And guess what? That's home now, baby. So yeah, it's just kind of, you learn as you go. You know, at first it can be like a little bit scary because you're like, I don't know where to go, like I don't know what to do. As long as you go to these places and you are respectful, you're not like, I never go to a spot and just like throw my doors open and set up my chairs and my outside mat. No, those type of things are for when I'm alone in the bush. When I'm out in city camping, be as respectful as you can. You know, people live in these neighborhoods, people live in the city. They're not all going to align with your lifestyle choice, so you just be as respectful as you can. I've had people knock on my door ready to just like give me their 2 cents, but you know, I come at them with kindness, and by the end of it, they are excited, they love what I'm doing and love who I am, and I give them a whole tour and we become best friends. So it's how you approach this situation and where you're at.
We find places to overnight mainly on iOverlander, the application. Also on the application we read the comments. Some people say that it's already open or now it's closed. So thanks to the community to add the places, because without it, it's gonna be complicated to find some spot to spend the night. Yeah.
I guess there's always the Walmart parking lots.
The parking overnight can be a challenge in the cities for sure, and like I said, it really depends where are you in the world. Like here in British Columbia, there's so many back roads you can go and just camp for free, but it's not like that everywhere.
I park in industrial spots. As long as you're quiet and respectful, I believe that people are okay with you being in those spaces. My saying is, if you can't keep it classy, keep it clean.
I'd always go to farms. I go looking for farms, acreages, and things like that.
Finding places to park is definitely a challenge. There's a balance between, you know, you have to find a neighborhood that you won't attract attention in. So anywhere where there's a lot of property crime or where there's a lot of like wealthy people who would get annoyed at you being there, you have to be careful with. One place that I park where I always get kind of dirty looks, but it's right by a cemetery, so it's like nobody's gonna stop me from parking there. But it's like it also overlooks the ocean around like multi-million-dollar homes where people have paid to have those views, and I just kind of roll up and sleep there. That's a big one though, is anywhere public. Cemeteries, public parks, anywhere where like you are actually allowed to exist without being a resident of the area is a great place to park. I've never had any problems with that, actually. The only times I've ever gotten the knock are when I'm on private lands, like a parking lot, but I've never had it happen on a street.
If there's a sign and says you're not allowed to park from certain time, you don't break that rule, because then you're risking yourself getting kicked out. And also, you watch for the hours. Some places in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, West Hastings, you can park from 10 o'clock all the way to 9 the next morning for free. So
After that, it's paid parking.
After that, it's paid parking, but it's also limited 2 hours.
Some areas you don't want to park, such as East Downtown or Chinatown, because there's a risk that someone's going to
smash your window,
try to steal stuff.
Yes. And there was one time we were parking in Abbotsford, and there was a guy that walking his dog, tried to knock the door of the van to see if anybody in there, so that he can break the glass and get in. So the trick is, dogs are good alarms. Yeah. They are good. They could warn you, and also to make sure that obviously if you park in nowhere area, make sure that obviously that there's somebody in there. You are in there or something like that. It's your safety. That's something people love to get a stealth, but sometimes it's not a very good idea to have it too stealth.
When you are van camping, obviously you can stay in BC parks or national parks if you're traveling in the US is the simplest form. So there are apps out there that you can track spots, you can check reviews and photos, make sure they're up to date is a piece of advice I would give you if you are using apps, just to make sure that spot is still accessible.
A lot of the times you can make friends on the road and then just kind of ask to park in their driveway for a night and they're good with that. To be honest, I've been in the van for almost 6 months. I've never had an issue with parking, which is surprising. I don't know how that's possible. I thought it was going to be the number one issue. It's not.
We have no regret.
Yeah, I don't know. We do not regret about anything. We are very happy
Very good experience.
Yeah, very good experiencing. We're happy to have our own van for like 6 months. It's a very good experience.
Discover Canada.
Discover places, discover people.
Yeah.
So yeah, no regrets.
I wouldn't really say I regret the lifestyle at all. It has its challenges, its pluses and minuses and all that sort of thing. There's some parts I actually wish I didn't go into the off-grid lifestyle, but there's other days where I'm like, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I just think there's a lot of learning curves. And I think the skills that I've acquired through going through those curves, I think kind of made it all worth it. It helped a lot for when times where I really needed it, or I needed cheaper rent, or I needed to just have a space where I can kind of continue to work and stuff. I think that it'd be nice to be on the grid in the winter and sort of off the grid in the summer. I think summer is just kind of like vacation, floating around. We're going to the beach today and doing all this other stuff. Where winter, it becomes more of it's like a job. It's you gotta take care of your space. You're the BC Hydro. You're the whole thing.
We're not regretting. We're loving it. We're like in a honeymoon every day. Yep. Well, honeymoon, it could be a lot of fighting, but we're loving it. We're not going back. Definitely not going back. Once you're into it, once you settle, you're not going back. If one day I drive around without a camper van, I'll miss it so bad.
Even if you do settle in or you have a house, it's always great to get out, go on a road trip, go on a weekend trip, take your spouse, or even if you have, depending how you build it, you can even have rear seats for your kids too, right?
Okay, no regrets, good vibes only.